The content discussed in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial or mortgage advice. Always consult with a licensed professional before making any decisions regarding mortgages or financial matters.
Welcome to the Canadian Mortgage Show. Here are mortgage professionals Alex Pang and Alex Shanks to cut through the BS and educate Canadians on all things mortgages and real estate.
Welcome to another episode of the Canadian Mortgage Show. This is episode 42. Alex Pang here alongside my co-host Alex Shanks. Shanks, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's, I would like to say that it's almost summertime. And that's because my kid, he's only got a little bit left to school. I know your kids only have a little bit left to school, but I mean, as an adult, does summertime really exist? It's just like, hey, the weather's a bit nicer, but it's not the same feeling anymore.
Well, yeah, especially because your kids are younger than mine. It's more like, shoot, now we got to find something for them to do or else they're going to be at home all the time. You know, like finding them summer camps. Exactly. And if you have the benefit of parents to help out, like, hey, mom and dad, can you take them for a day or two or whatever? Every day go to mom and dad's house for like 9 to 5 or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, no, my oldest, he's super stoked. He's like, oh, this is going to be so awesome. No school. I'm so excited. I'm like, I'm excited for you. I'm not excited for myself.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny you say like my kids' actually last day of school was today.
Oh shit.
So they had actually not today. It was yesterday. So, my oldest Jordan, he was saying to me like, well, now that I graduated, when's my curfew lifted?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I guess it's now. Like he's graduating next week, but we're like, I guess it's now. But the thing is, like his girlfriend is graduating as well, and she goes to a different school, but she has the rest of this week for school. So we're like, well, I guess you can stay up, but it doesn't mean that his girlfriend can come over and stay up all night while we go to bed. We're like, nah, we don't need to be grandparents that soon, okay? Like you can stay up until we go to bed, right? Now, of course, if you are out with your friends out, we could care less, right? Just don't interrupt our sleep and whatever, right? And he's gonna start like working for his uncle in a couple weeks. He's gonna have a 7 to 3 p.m. like 7 a.m. shift.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
get ready.
If you're gonna stay up, then you're gonna have to deal with the consequences. And you remember you and I when we grew up, we would party on a work night and and just show up hungover at work. I'm like, we can't do that anymore.
Oh no, exactly. That's where, yeah, I don't. When I did a couple days at Staples sometimes, and I was lucky enough, I'd sometimes work in the furniture spot, and I would just pretend to make chairs all day, and really, I would just be sitting there as I was dying.
Yeah. I remember the days of like, oh, you got to go clubbing, but I got to work the next day. I was like, oh, okay, that's okay, and you end up staying out all night, and then you might have gotten any sleep or you just went straight to work like and not slept. And yeah, like as an 18-year-old, sure, you can do that, but man, if you know what, honestly, I'm at the age where I even past 1 o'clock, like you're probably you sleep earlier than I do, but I sleep later, man. There's a certain hour that I can't stay up any longer. It's like nope, can't do it.
Yeah, that's where, like, I'd say on average, you probably stay up later. I usually have to work later in the evening because, like, I got to deal with the kids and stuff. And so I do have to come out here and work and everything. But, like, it's like if I have a drinks, to me, I like daytime drink. I'm a daytime drinker. And then I still go to bed at 9 p.m. That's perfect.
Oh, my gosh. I'm one of those drinkers that when I do have a few drinks, like, I think I get tired afterwards. Like once you have your initial buzz that wears off and you're like in front of the TV, you're like, oh, I'm just ready to pass out at whatever hour. And man, you know what it just says? It just says we're getting old. My goodness.
Yeah, that's where I find it's you got either like if I have one beer, it makes me super tired, and that's where like I either have no beer or I have a couple beer.
Yeah,
because if I have like one, I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we do have a jam-packed show. We had some leftover stuff from last week. Alex, let's get into this. Do you want to start us off?
Let's start off with some of the negative stuff here. And this is we are a real estate show here. And obviously we do mortgages. And so it would be good when more homes are being sold. But right now, CMHC says condo sales have plunged 75% in Toronto and 37% in Vancouver since 2022. And I mean, investors are losing, are mounting, projects are canceling, it's rising, putting future housing supply at risk, which we know we were meant to create, was it 3 million homes by 2030? I don't even know if we're going to create 100,000 homes by that time.
Yeah, because you know what? If condos are not selling, especially the new condos, builders aren't going to be building. And like, because the numbers don't pencil. And we all know with high rises, they take 5 to 6 years to build, if you include all the government bureaucracy and all that stuff. So the building starts, we'll touch on it later. Building starts are at an all-time low. What it will create is a future supply crunch. Now, the thing is, we have a lot of supply right now, just not the right supply. It's the missing middle, the 1,200 square foot, 2 or 3 bedroom that's meant for a young family to start off. Not these 400,
Yeah, not a 300 square foot.
yeah, 400, micro condo shoeboxes in the sky. There's a lot of that. And, like, I mean, when times were great, I mean, that's what fueled the investor market. And
I could, this is
the party ended.
This is what I could see, Alex. I could see the government having to buy some of these buildings fully. I feel like the government is going to have to buy and front them, and they're going to become full purpose-built rentals.
Are we talking like a bailout, like in 2008? You're seeing?
That for some of these bigger ones that are just not being sold. It's honestly what I can see is happening is like the government's going to buy them, and I mean, really, that probably could do better. Maybe do our CPP, put our pension funds in there, and maybe we can get some better returns. But I mean, who else is going to live in these things? People don't want to live in them. There's not enough people for making a rental market. There's no short-term renters anymore. And so I think it's going to have to be like government housing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a period of like that, especially in Vancouver, where after the Olympics, for those of you in Vancouver, there was an area in Vancouver called Olympic Village, which was built to house the athletes during the Olympics. And once they left, people, I guess the owners of the building is deemed to be a luxury condo, but it was not selling. So they were, I guess they're now like, it's either they eventually sold off, but it was one of those things where at the time they were like, oh yeah, we'll sell them, luxury condos, but the market just dried up at the time after, during that 2010 to 2015 period. And yeah, so I mean, here's a crazy stat here is in Toronto, and Toronto's feeling it more than Vancouver. Pre-construction or pre-sale units, 55% of pre-sale units remain unsold in Toronto in the first quarter of this year. And that's just shy of the record of 56% seen it not too long ago, 6 months ago, back in late last year. So we're going through
I would say I feel like we're going to go high.
Cleansing right now.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to go higher. What I see of like realtors there on pre-sales, and I mean, also it's again, obviously these developers and they're not bleeding enough yet because they're not cutting prices. It's not like they're cutting prices or anything, and so it's at some point. I mean, prices are going to have to drop, and that's what needs to happen for people to buy them.
Yeah, and then we talked about a couple weeks ago when there was that early development that for one day it was 25% off, and it was the lineup around the block. Well, you know what that means? That place that you're selling is 25% overvalued. So
that's where like I know like I think didn't Doug Ford come out and say like interest rates need to come down? What is the Bank of Canada doing? And like to be honest, it's like has he ever even looked at like a rental analysis? Let's pretend even that rates went down by 1%. It would not improve these enough to actually make them solid investments. The numbers would have to go back to 2%. And that's where like, yes, we want rates to come down more, but I think this is where we're going to be staying and it's not going to change the market enough.
Yeah, it's prices need to come down more. And then, pre-sale developments are struggling when a lot of these pre-sales are offering so many incentives, decorating allowance, free EV parking, extra parking, 2 years paid strata fees. When it's a hot market, they ain't giving you shit. when it's
that's, I mean, there was a couple of them like you're selling. They got Porsches when you get them and everything, and yeah, it is. Yeah, they're trying to incentivize it, and it's just like, man, just drop the price.
Exactly.
Just drop the price, and you probably would get mine.
yeah, they don't want to drop the price because it creates a precedent, and then it sets a comparable, and then everything needs to drop. So they're only doing it as a case by case basis. But unfortunately, um, they're dead. It's deader than a doornail, like I've said before. So with when it comes to on the back end here, um, developers have their own financing. Most of them, like not all, like if not all of them, they're not building it with their own cash. They're borrowing that money.
Oh yeah,
And the way it works with a building construction loan is they need to pre-sale. They need to, pre-sell 70% of their units before the bank will release funding so they can break ground. Well, seeing the stat that 55% of construction pre-cons have not even sold, a lot of these are not even going to make it off the ground, and they're going to be canceled, like you said. I mean, here, even canceled condo projects are up 5x in Toronto and 10 times in Vancouver in the last 2 years, from 2022 to 2024. Check out this crazy stat. Another crazy stat. I'm going to blow your mind, Alex. Toronto has 58 months of new condo inventory for sale.
Yeah, and
isn't that wild?
That's the chart on here. Maybe we can get that up there. I mean, if you go back to 2008, we were at 20 months. I mean, we are almost triple of what that, and that is like, this to me is the signs of like, this is the Toronto condo like market. Like it is a bloodbath.
Yep, it is set to collapse. And folks, if you're seeing this on the video side, it's a hockey stick. This graph, it's just going straight up. Now it's not prices, it's just so much inventory. Greed went amok, and then the party stopped. And yep, there's going to be. I mean, the big boys, especially in the Lower Mainland, like the Anis, the Bozas, the Aquilinis, all the big developers, and I'm sure there's the big developer families in the GTA. They'll do fine. It's the smaller ones that will go belly up, and projects will cancel. And I was talking with a couple advisors today. All the big families are probably snapping up projects now from failed developers, because they're banking land right now. Like we all say, the best time to buy is in a down market. That goes towards commercial as well in the greater scheme things. Like, these guys are.
Oh yeah, that's like we were trying to help some developers buy, like actually keep a place, because there was some bankruptcy that was going on due to like a bad CEO. We had reached out to a couple of private lenders like that had some larger chunks of money, and they're like, we're not lending money, we're just buying land. Like this is where we're scooping everything up here right now. And that's just because when prices go down, they do go down, but they will come up. And to them right now, it's just a straight discount.
Yep. Same thing when we talked about when it comes to the stock market and real estate. You buy when no one wants to buy, because that's where money is made. Money is made on the buy, not the sale. I don't know how many times I need to harp on it, but we're going to keep screaming it until the cows come home.
Someone will learn. And that's where, I mean, I'll even tell people like a bit of a story of mine. When I bought a place in 2024, I did think I was going to get a deal because I purchased it in 2023. I didn't close until 2024. When I built my own budget, I did it as rates were at 6%. Did it on all investment properties I own, saying, hey, when my mortgage comes up for renewal, it's going to be 6%. I was happy with those numbers. Well, rates are much lower than that now. I bought a place and it's worth more money, and my cost is much less. But I looked at my budget and everything worked. And so that's where I was able to scoop in. I didn't get the deal as I wanted, but it still worked out very well. And I would have been happy either way.
Yeah. Folks, if you're looking at the day will return where investing in real estate is fruitful. Right now in the Lower Mainland, the GTA, it is not. But when the time comes, again, look at your cash flow analysis, all the expenses, and yes, base it on what your current borrowing is, but also what they call it, stress test your portfolio. Can it handle an extra 2% more in interest rates? What will your payments look like? Are you going to be in negative? Are you going to be able to handle it and be conservative in your approach?
Oh, that's. I remember when me and my wife were looking at getting our our second place back in the day. We did it at 10% interest rates. Now prices were much lower, but we doubled interest rates. And that's where, like, I mean, even when I had people buying at 2% and stuff, I said, hey, we pretend that rates are double. I mean, that wasn't even right. Interest rates went even higher that way. But like, if you don't have some sort of like stress test in there, even just for yourself, like we do have stress tests for mortgages, but like you need a stress test for like what's going to happen. What if one person loses a job? What if one person goes on maternity leave? Like you have to look at everything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we talked about how people are stretched. Well, developers we talked about because the sales are low, they aren't selling anything, so they're sitting on a lot of inventory. So the Bank of Canada is reporting here builders and developers have borrowed more money from charter banks than it has ever before. So as of Q1 this year, 85 billion has been borrowed. Now that's twice as high as Q1 of last year. Now a huge volume of this, 32 billion of it is quote in-term lending. But they didn't define in-term lending. Like what do you think in-term lending is, Alex?
I mean, in their case, we would say interim lending is like, hey, bridge financing, you're selling, you're buying something. There needs to be an end date. I think for them, it's saying that, hey, we don't know when our properties are going to sell and we need to pay our interest costs.
Yeah, so this is probably most likely all the unsold inventory they have in their pockets that they need to unload, but no one's buying.
Yeah. And that's where I mean,
Yeah, so
this is where, like, for one, banks have been shoring funds up for the last 2 years. Like, everyone, like, even though that these, let's say, these developers letting they're borrowing $32 billion, for them, it's really not as negative as people also think. As again, they get to write that off as debt. They also don't want to make a bunch of profits because they just have to pay taxes on it. Where they're like, oh, we get to write this off, and that is why developers going to hold on selling a place longer than we would, because we'd be like, holy shit, I need $1 million here right now. I can't hold on to this debt. For them, they're just like, hey, our profits are going down, our revenue's up, but hey, we're going to drop our profits and we're not going to pay taxes.
yeah, I've been hearing these are more large developers that they'll still go through a project um, that may not be profitable just so that they can keep their employees employed so they don't have to lay off. Like they will take a loss on.
Yeah. They'll add it to another building and everything. Like, oh crap, that one wasn't profitable, but hey, that other one was super profitable.
Yeah, because they want to keep their employees working. And we'll touch on it later on. The layoff situation is not, um, it's bled into real estate as well.
Yeah, but that's where like the I do know like so a lot of the balloon paint, like the 85 billion in quarter 1. CMHC came out with like MLI Select for financing, and this is for direct building, like actual purpose built rentals, and that is where like I mean in Calgary and Edmonton, it was gangbusters there. People are looking for 10 million, 15 million. A lot of funds were given out then. They've had to cut back how they're doing it now, but I do think a lot of like a large portion of some of this funding is also just directly correlated to that, which the government made that program. Like they kind of expected a bunch of funds going out, but again, it is still a large portion. And these are all just purpose built rentals. These aren't for sale. These are just building condo apartments for people to rent.
Well, speaking of building, there's been some reports here. Well, there's another graph that we'll throw up here. Building permits in Canada fell 6.6% in April, but who's driving it largely is BC. They've been down 44%, close to 45%, a $1 billion drop in multi-family housing plans. Now, this number got offset by Ontario's gain in the non-residential sector. They're up 6.7%, but yeah, that's a starking uh, stat here. BC, being one of the largest provinces here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's I mean, and for one, like we're hearing talks about like the municipalities that are meant to be making more like permits happen, making it easier. And a lot of places still aren't doing that. They're still making it very hard. And that's where again, this is just showing is like, well, what is the red tape that we have in BC? Like, why are we so far different than every other province? I mean, if we were like, hey, 5% higher, but I mean 44%, and what's the next highest? Is PEI also down 44%? It's hard.
It is down, but PI is much smaller than BC. So Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, yes, Nunavut is down
Yeah.
73%, but every other place is actually up other than Alberta. Alberta being down by 4%. Hey, that makes sense. Nova Scotia being down by 19%. And so, I mean, if BC was down by 20, I'd be like, oh, that's not like, okay, it's just, hey, it's down here in BC. But like 44%, that's like we're not incentivizing people to be able to even build homes.
Oh yeah, and we talked about this probably months ago, where Vaughan, Ontario, they've lowered development charges, inviting development, and I've caught wind of this, that Mississauga has also joined in that boat, that to lower development fees. So thank you, municipalities. Please, the rest of Canada, please follow suit, especially BC, GTA, everywhere else in the country. Please follow suit, because
Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah.
if they don't, like, oh god, like these municipalities, like they're going to have to start increasing taxes like crazy. Like this is like a lot of their funds come from either people buying places with the property transfer tax, and or like from development fees and stuff ain't being built. So I mean, why not again drop the price to make it a little bit more affordable? And hey, it's better than nothing.
Exactly.
And now this is the one that we don't love, and obviously we've talked about this before, is like the Canadian, like if we compare ourselves to the US, any other countries, like our household debt to income ratio is up in quarter one up to 178%, meaning that we are using 178% of our income for our debt to income, which is like that's not a number that should be happening, which is just crazy.
Let's put this down to like real world numbers, folks. For every dollar that you make in income, $1.78, you have $1.78 in debt.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is not a good track to go on. Like that's just leading down to like debt prison for like how can anybody get out of it?
And I mean, at least came down. At least it's come down. I mean, we peaked pretty hard. It's at least it's coming down. It's flatlining, but I mean, we're well above US. Britain's there, and it like these are not numbers that we want to see. I mean, ideally, you don't want to be using 50% of your income towards debt.
Yeah, yeah. Like folks, if you'll see this graph on the video side too, we were kind of on par with the UK and US around 2010. So shortly after the global financial crisis, we were all kind of on par. But let's 15 years of, let's look back. 2010 to 2015 for Lower Mainland had, it was pretty flat, but that's when foreign capital came into the Lower Mainland, and that's where incomes detached from housing prices. And I'm sure it started way sooner than that, but that's when we saw an exponential growth, and that was like a rocket to the moon from COVID, when we all know about free money being available and printing, and everyone wanting to get more space away from people.
And I actually talking about that, Alex. I don't know if you're what I'm seeing a lot of people right now. It's so anyone that had lower interest rates, like so I have one property that's at 1.45. It's coming up in November. A lot of people that got the very low fixed rate mortgages, all their mortgages are coming up for renewal, and what people are really realizing is their payment shock. Their payments are going to be increasing, and I mean I think we talked about it in a podcast later before. Its average is increasing by about $600 a month, and that like depending on if people took other debt or hey if they've been not they've been spending more money, it's a payment shock for people. Like all we're really having to work with people right now on those is just cash flow management, but being like, hey, are you ready for your budget to change by $600 a month? Some people are like, oh, that's not going to affect us. Others are like this could bankrupt us.
Well, folks, these are probably those who had the benefit of locking into a low fixed at the time. Either a 1 to 2%. Uh, we didn't have the benefit. Some of us are on variable, myself included. We felt it right away with each increasing. I was on a fixed payment variable, but eventually I passed the trigger rate. We remember that term now, where my payment went up like 50%. and
That's where, like, I mean, you could say that it sucked for you, but your budget has been attuned to it. Now, I mean, those other people paid a lot less in interest, so they won. But I have a lot of people that we were already preparing for it. They've been putting funds away, but it's a scary thing talking to people and they're like, oh, well, my payment's going to go down. Right. I'm like, no, like you've started at 25 years. You're now at 20 years. Your interest rate has gone up. In normal cases, yes, it usually should be going down, but not the world that we're in now because of 1.5 to 4%.
Yeah, but there may be options too, like to help mitigate it. If you're down to
Oh yeah, they can extend their
yeah, you can extend your amortization 25. I believe you might be able to do it without it considering as a refinance. Like you can do it maybe with a lender, your existing lender, they'd be able to do it without having to reopen the application. Um, but yeah, that may be possible. But yeah, like all of us felt it for the variable along the way the last 3 years, but now I think it's all the people coming up who are on fixed who are who will feel it.
those are the ones. That's I remember in 2022. That's where like that's what I was talking about. Like I said, the people that got $1 million mortgages at 1.5% locked in, those are honestly the ones that scare me the most because all the other people they've been doing it. Either they would have lost their house back then, or they're not going to do it. The people that they may have taken out vehicle loans because debt was so cheap back then, their mortgages are going to come up and they're going to be like, holy shit.
Yeah, this next graph pretty much is repeating what we're already talking about here. Um, this graph here by BCG analysis here, home ownership unaffordability is twice as high, is 2 times higher in Canada than the US and the OECD. And I mean, it pretty much says the same thing that as the other graph, where like it started as early as 2005, but that's when we broke away from the US and the OECD and the other countries in the world that, and it kept climbing and, it exponentially increased during COVID where, yeah, it's like we said, it's twice as hard to that 2 times less affordable now than it was, geez, than like even like 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, and I mean, that's where I would be perfectly fine to go back to high interest rates if it meant home prices were cheaper. I would rather people to be able to afford a place and have the average home at 500,000 than 700,000. Because again, to me, more people that can get into homes, really the better for everyone. And that's just, now we need, what is this? The 4.8 million new homes to make it to restore housing affordability to 2019 levels. Now, supposedly CMHC was trying to find ways to get back to 2004 affordability levels. They've scrapped that. They said that's not going to ever happen again. It's not even going to get to 2019. It's not possible. Where
Yeah, that was the number before COVID.
Yeah, that's where it's not going to happen for one, because we can see that, hey, we do have a lot of supply, the wrong supply, but prices are not sky falling down, and they are going to go
Yep.
down lower. And even if rates go lower, let's say, hey, we sit around 3.5%, it's again not going to make it affordable because our price of our wages never went up. Someone that had a job at 60,000
Yep.
10 years ago, they're at 65,000 now. Like, how does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's that number CMHC put out. That's roughly 430 to 480,000 new homes a year. That's double the current construction rate of around 200, 210, 220, something like that.
Oh, that's our peak. That's our peak.
Yeah.
That is like the best we've ever
Yeah.
done. It's like 250,000. Like it's not, and that's where again we're setting these crazy targets that just aren't even attainable. It's like, hey, let's try and do something that's actually attainable and say, hey, we're gonna build 500,000 homes in 2 years. Let's try and do that
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
and make it affordable homes. But we got modulars coming. Don't worry about that, Alex. There's going to be a bunch of modular homes coming. The hardest thing is like, how do we finance them though? That's always the question of like, hey, I want to put this modular home on my property. I want to buy land. It's like, well, I can finance the land. I can't finance the modular until the modular is on the land. And it's like, the government is not even thinking about how these are going to work.
Well, are they actually going to sell them, or is it just going to be rental housing through the government? Do you know?
I don't know. I feel like some of them are going to be prefabs of saying, hey, like let's build a bunch of homes really fast. And that's where I don't mind modulars, like a modular, not a manufactured home, a real modular that has all the normal walls and stuff. It's just we haven't, like, lending hasn't like kept up to that. It
Yeah.
doesn't, like, only lender that can even do something with it is RBC because they can do a shadow mortgage. You can actually get financing on the modular before it's on the property. Every other lender will not finance something because it doesn't exist to the property.
Yeah, yeah, and we even heard things about like shipping container homes. Like that's what Carney and his government were proposing to build all those modular shipping container homes. So I mean, we'll see how that works out if it actually happens at all. Um, so we're gonna pile on some more bad news here. Nearly 4 in 10 Canadian renters spend up to half their income on rent, and this is a report according to Royal LePage. Now, this is something we probably already know anecdotally, but I guess the proof is in the report here. Now, many consider buying, but 40% are waiting for prices to fall, and 29% are holding out for lower rates. And that is almost like a symptom of what's happening right now, where yes, like we wanted prices to fall, which they have, 10 or 15% from the peak. Rates have come down. It's come down like 2% from the peak as well. So why aren't people buying? I guess it's obviously uncertainty with the economy, job security as well. They don't know if they're going to have a job in the next 3 to 6 months, or if it's going to, they're going to be laid off. And of course, good old down in the South with the whole tariff thing that's been going on.
And I mean, we have even that we have that, and then we'll bring up some other news. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff happening out east with Israel and Iran. Like, I mean, are we going into World War III? I mean, Trump had to step away from the G7. Like, there's a lot of stuff going that way. And let's go back to 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. That's what really spurred the massive increase on interest rates here, and that is where do you want to like people need to be prepared. Like if stuff does happen here, rates aren't going to be going down. Rates will be increasing. And that's where like bonds have not decreased at all. We're sitting at like 2.937. And I would put very, very low odds on the Bank of Canada dropping interest rates just with all the uncertainty right now.
Yeah, yeah. Like when Bank of Canada held early June, the odds were around like 50 to 55% of a July cut. And the market has lowered the odds of another rate cut to just one for the rest of this year. I don't see it in July happening. If anything, it might be like sometime in the fall, if anything happens.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, we just need to see. And I mean, like, there's still not been much talk about what's going to happen with the tariff and everything. And it all plays around oil. If anything happens with oil, prices skyrocket, inflation skyrockets. And that's where we're just in a bad spot right now again of like recession happening. We're going to talk about it here, but like job losses all across Canada and everything. And that's not going to bode well.
Yeah, and even like I've heard some talk that I guess Canada is working with the U.S. on a possible trade deal, but it might happen within the next 30 days. I mean, that's encouraging. There's nothing about it, but there's just talk. We'll see. So at least they're, Trump and Carney are not adversarial. At least, let's come to some sort of resolution here. But yeah. Okay. So, just a little left turn here. Here's a funny story. We've always talked about Canada allowing way too many new immigrants, temporary foreign workers at a time to, prop up the economy. This is going to boil your blood here. Ontario has fined, okay, so on the ground, so, there's unscrupulous people taking advantage of the system too by allowing, like being able to get jobs and all that stuff. Ontario has fined a recruiter for charging foreign workers to place them at Canadian Tire stores. So the province Ministry of Labor found that Allison Jones and her businesses were charging foreign workers between $7,900 to $12,000 US to secure work permits and jobs at a Canadian Tire location in Toronto. So they've ordered 2 companies she owns to reimburse them for a total of as much as 150 grand.
Okay, and that's like what I don't even know who Allison Jones is. I'm gonna look at the.
Yeah, she's some sort of like immigration, some sort of like uh, immigration lawyer or immigration firm that just
Yeah, there. I mean, it's actually in. It's kind of funny. She has a picture of standing in front of Canadian Tire. That's the picture of.
yeah, and I believe her office might be in Alberta. I think what I've read. Yeah, so I mean, the Employment Protection for Foreign Nationals Act prohibits recruiters and employers from charging foreign workers fees when assisting them in finding jobs. So likely these jobs are low paying. They're minimum wage, so they're charging them to fast track them into Canada to get them a job at Canadian Tire, which could have went to any high schooler to my two kids, and that's why they can't find jobs. For people like Allison Jones, this is affecting it. This is why we have 20% youth unemployment. For
I mean, also at the same time, I mean, also I read some of the reviews, and I mean, selling fairy tales of like, oh, this is just your starting job. Don't worry, we'll then get you a better paying job. And I mean, they're getting sold a fairy tale. I mean, depending obviously where they're coming from. I mean, we have to remember, yes, Canada's not maybe the most amazing place to live in right now. We all don't love where it's going and stuff, but we also don't have to wake up every hour worrying that our home's going to get bombed, that we can't walk on the street and stuff. And that's where, yes, we don't want all this immigration coming in and them taking our jobs. But I mean, a lot of these people are fleeing countries that are getting bombed.
yeah, so I mean, this is from a Global Mail investigation. So last year they found that these two companies that Allison Jones owns, he's worked with at least 45 Canadian Tire stores in Ontario, BC, and Alberta to hire these foreign workers. So this is probably not the only person that taking advantage of it. So
Oh, totally. And that's where I mean, and now I mean, we know that the government was funding these like, hey, you can pay $10 an hour and we'll give you the rest of the money to do it. And that's where like, oh God.
the government needs to shut down that Lima program where we are not short uh like low skill jobs. Like that's where all the teen like the young people.
Labor, we need laborers and tradesmen. Those are the people that we really need to bring in from other countries, because those people we don't have.
Yes, yes. We don't need Uber drivers. We don't need more people working at Tim Hortons or whatever. Do you want to update people on what's happening with the Arrive Cam? Arrive Can?
I mean, the Rive scam. It's
Yeah.
so Parliament just passed a conservative motion ordering GC Strategies to hand back the 64 million they've scammed from taxpayers within 100 days and banning them from government contracts for life. I mean, they were banned before for 7 years or whatever. And then the nice thing is Conservatives, NDP, and the Bloc defeated the Liberals in Parliament. They didn't want to get our money back. Now, I mean, I didn't dive into this. I don't fully know. Like, I don't want to know, like, what is liberals like reason for saying, oh, no, we don't think? Like, did they make up a real story to say, hey, no, they did do some work, or are they just trying to protect themselves?
I think it's more the latter because like it's good that the conservatives, NDP, and Bloc they band together to defeat them in Parliament. Now, will they actually get our $64 million back? I highly doubt it. I mean, those guys probably that money's stashed in the Cayman somewhere.
Oh, they'll pay a fine. They'll pay like $20 million fine and be like, oh, well, I still made 40 million.
You know what? This could very well, let's talk. This could, trigger a non-confidence vote, and we might be talking about elections sooner than we thought. Who knows? Who knows?
Which I mean, the only thing I can say with that is just I feel like that would just be such a waste of our money.
Yeah.
Again. It's just, I mean, it's not where I feel like let's try and all work together here. Like, let's just do something to make our country better all together right now. And I think the fighting between everyone that way is not going to help anything.
So we know even though we're going to demand that $60 million back, what are the chances of actually getting it back? Now, here's the thing. Why are we giving 20 billion to Ukraine? Now, I understand foreign aid and we need to be good global citizens and we need to help out our, but 20 billion, like, isn't there this saying when it comes to financial, like, take care of yourself first before you take care of others? Like, that whole proverbial thing about like when the plane's going down and the masks are coming out. They always say, put on the mask on yourself before helping someone else, right? Because if you help somebody else, chances are you'll pass out before you put it on someone else. So you're not going to help anybody. This is the same scenario here. Why 10, 20 billion? This could help so many people in Canada.
We still have people that don't have clean drinking water. We still have people that don't have connection to power services. Like there's so many things out there that, and I mean, let's not even talk about Ukraine. Like, hey, they have been surviving, but let's go to Africa. There's people that are dying every single day, again, because they don't have clean drinking water. Like that's where I just have a really hard time of like the way that we allocate our funds. And I mean, remember there was that report where they like dug into where funds were going and then it all got deleted and then it got re-uploaded again. And it's like, well, like where is our money going? And that's where, again, I wish there was better control of like explaining what are these funds going to do. And hey, if you can say, hey, it's going to go better Ukraine, this is what it's going to do, this is what it's going to do to our economy, hey, give me a bit of an explanation, I'm fine.
There needs to be, like, again, with the Auditor General, with the whole procurement thing, if we're spending this money, we need to know where it's going, not to, corrupt government officials' pockets, like Valerie Zelensky's pocket or something like that. How about taking care of your own country first? Like, even the thing with like healthcare, the wait lists are so long for even just getting an MRI. Or we all know that, yes, we have universal healthcare, but the system is broken where things take forever, and people on a wait list end up dying before they even see like a doctor, because like we need more hospitals, we need more doctors, we need more, a lot of things. And 20 billion seems just a lot, like way too much, without
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested. Yeah, I'd be very interested.
taking care of your own. And you don't even have a budget that you take tabled either.
Yeah, no. But I mean, this is a really good one, and it's I can totally see it happening. Is they're gonna the government is banning gas powered vehicles by 2035. And I can tell you this, it's not going to happen. For one, how would they make it happen in Alberta? The batteries don't last long enough because of the weathers. Same if you go up further up north. And we don't even have the right power grid for it. They said, well, I think like Vancouver wanted to happen it by like 2028 or something. They don't even have the right power sources to make this happen.
Carney's company Brookfield stands to profit from going full electric because they invest in EVs and stuff. My wife said this correctly, and she said when I told her about this, she's like, they probably won't be in power by then, so who cares? Like they can do it now, but once we get a new government change, they'll be like, we like our gas vehicles. Sorry.
But again, I mean, it's like, it depends on how much like what they get pushed through and everything through Parliament. I mean, they could have certain things, and I'm fine with like saying like, hey, this is what we're gonna do and this is how we're gonna do it. But we come up with these crazy ideas of like we're gonna be ban all gas power by 2035. Well, we don't have the power grids. I think the last time I saw it is for us to be fully electric, we would have to build a nuclear power station like one every single month for like 5 years just to be able to power everything that way.
Yep. And especially with the trend of AI things now require a lot of power to run, and there's going to be the power demand as well. So sounds great in theory, but again, this is probably la la land. Like, we are not in a country that is great with EVs. Like, even like I would say the lower mainland, sure, it might be possible, but not in Alberta in the prairies when you get like -40 winters, where battery charge is degraded by what, 40% when it's below -20, something like that.
And what are you going to do? Let's say someone's driving from Edmonton to Fort Mac. It's about a 6-hour drive, and like you try to go to a charging station and it's broken, and now you can't charge your car. You can't go to the gas station. And now people are going to freeze to death because they can't turn the vehicle on to stay warm.
Oh yeah, and then like the whole range anxiety. You see some videos on social where, like, there's a charging station, but you have to wait like 12 hours to get to it, and and the line's up around the block.
I mean, the funniest thing is like you'll see like and I mean I've even had to do it. When we had an electric vehicle, it died, and I had to bring a generator, sit in my car for an hour to charge it to then get it. And I mean that's where people, if that happened, people in Alberta would just drive around with generators and their electric vehicle, and it'd be getting charged by the generator the entire time.
Okay, I'm just curious. What powers a generator, Alex?
Oh, that's fuel there, and so it's
That's gasoline.
exactly.
So guess what, folks? As much as we want to go green, like Canada going full EV is not the issue.
We can't.
We represent maybe less than 1% of the carbon emissions in the world.
What we really need to look at more is the hybrid. Like we need to look at the gas and battery. And
I'm okay with a hybrid because my car right now, it's kind of like a mild hybrid. I'm not sure, but yeah, if it's more fuel efficient and there's a battery.
have you ever seen Edison Motors on TikTok? Have you ever seen that? Has that ever come up on your? They're from Kelowna, I think, or Vernon there, and they're building like a truck like for towing and stuff, and it's diesel electric. And again, it has the batteries, but it also is powered by a diesel generator. But again, it's only using it when it needs it to charge the batteries.
Yeah, I'm okay with a mix of both. Like one of the biggest things where like we decide not to get an EV is like EVs are okay if you're just commuting in the city. I'm talking about the Lower Mainland, where like the mildest climate in Canada. It's okay if you're just commuting within the city. That's fine. But man, if you want to do a road trip, like let's just say we're in a normal world, we can travel to the States. We can do a road trip to Portland or road trip, take a weekend, go up to Kelowna. I don't want to be stopping in Merritt to charge for an hour and a half. Like I don't want to have range anxiety. And I'm sure a lot of people are on the same boat as me. Like, yes, but this adds so much more hours to like your trips and all that stuff. And I don't want to be like all worried about like, oh shoot, do I have enough juice? And I better not turn on the AC because it's gonna degrade. My battery's gonna go down. Better not turn on the stereo.
Better than that, like it can plan an entire trip. You can say how I'm going to drive at 100 kilometers and everything. So like they do have it better, but like we wouldn't drive our electric vehicle places for longer trips because we're like, no, I don't want to get stuck and have to be stuck somewhere. And so I'm going to take my gas powered vehicle for longer trips. I'll use the electric inside the town.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we got to shift more of the local stuff in BC here. So we did allude to earlier that there's been layoffs. Well, a few weeks ago, Rennie has the Rennie marketing group laid off 25% of their staff. Well, layoffs are happening at West Group. That's another large developer in the BC. Now I'm just reading this social post from the president there of West Group. Some unfortunate news today has been one of the most difficult days in West Group's 60-plus year history. Due to the unprecedented and compounding challenges facing the real estate industry, including prolonged economic uncertainty, the rising cost of delivering housing, and a deeply stalled condo market, we, like many of our peers across Canada, were faced with the extreme difficult decision to reduce the size of our team. So they didn't say how many they're going to lay off by, but it's not going to be a small number. I mean, my guess might be like 10 or 25% as well.
Yeah, it's sad that way.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we'll just quickly go over this because I know we're tight for time, but we have in BC, we have ferries to get from where I live. So I live on Vancouver Island. Alex lives on the mainland, and we got to catch a ferry to see each other. And so BC Ferries, they've chosen, they're going to be building new ferries, and they're going to be doing it at a Chinese shipyard. And again, I'm kind of surprised by this because like the tension between the US and China, but I feel like that's simmered down quite a bit. But that's where, again, well, why are we sending all this stuff out? Now I'll tell you this why is because it can get done a lot cheaper than it can here in Canada. I used to work at the C-SPAN yard in North Vancouver where we're building a bunch of government ships. And I'll tell you this, the amount of money that we spend, I don't think it's worth it to build here in Canada. I would say take the savings and do other stuff with it because, I mean, we're talking 10 times the price, maybe even 20 times the price, which is a massive difference.
Well, yeah, because China will do it with paying lower wages and they have lower cost of materials. And, to do it in Canada, everyone, it goes through a union.
They can build a ship in, I think they can build a ship in like 6 months. It takes us 5 years.
Yeah, with so much like red tape and all that stuff. And, we talked about this before, how the whole elbows up buy Canadian. That sounds great in theory until it hits your pocketbook. And I guess here's a prime example of BC Ferries. Government's even kicking in $33 million in subsidies as well. that even BC Ferries is going to the Timu of China and buying it cheaper.
And I mean, they're not, I'd be like, I would say, like, hey, this is one way. Maybe the government can look at it, be like, hey, you can build it, you do it in Canada, and you will get some subsidies. You can increase the cost of your ferry prices then. You do it in China, it's going to be cheaper. You have to lower your prices on the ferry because, I mean, ferry prices have just gone up and up and up, and their service has just gone down and down and down. And that's where, again, I understand it, and I personally don't have a problem with it because I know what it costs to build it here, and it would just be exorbitant.
Just the optics don't look great, right? Especially for the Liberal government and talking about like we need to stand strong, buy Canadian. I'm like, but you just gave a contract to China. Well, it's because it's cheaper. Well, yeah, exactly. That's why we buy our groceries from Walmart or Trader Joe's because it's cheaper. We buy like, even strawberries that were locally grown is probably like $6.99 a pound, but it's from the States. It's $2 or $3.99 a pound. Like, sorry, we'll do it until.
And they're giving you a discount. Like my wife's usually been buying from Mexico lately, and the strawberries I do find taste better. But like they're always at Walmart is the California one on sale, and it's like $1.99, $2.99 sometimes. And if I go there, I buy it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to pay $5.99. I'm going to take the $1.99.
Yeah, exactly. We'll buy Canadian until it hits our pocketbook. That's when we're like, you know what? And so unfortunately, we have to worry about our own personal budgets, right? So we're gonna end off on one thing that's like a little bit lighthearted here, something local in Vancouver. Um, Vancouver has changed the name of Trutch Street to a First Nations name. Now, this is the first time using an alphabet that's not English. So we'll throw this up on the video side too. Alex, can you pronounce this name?
I'm not even gonna try, Alex. Now, like I love like I do love the native like language actually with like the way that some of it works. And I mean, if you get to Squamish and everything, it's super cool. But I mean, I don't fully understand how this is gonna work. I don't really know it could it not be two streets? Like, hey, we're naming it this, but on here, I mean, you tried, Alex. I can't say it, and I can't even type those words into my computer. And so, how is anyone going to find that street?
Yeah, exactly. Like, some people are like joking on social. Delivery guy, what street do you live on? Me, I'm not sure. I can't pronounce it or spell it. Now, we're just thinking, more joking aside here. Like, imagine trying to update your address for Amazon shipments or even your driver's license at the DMV. How is that going to happen? Like, you need to change the keyboard alphabet. Like, I don't even know.
I didn't realize this, and now the reason. So Vancouver's following the city of Vancouver, which in 2022 changed all of it.
Victoria.
Yeah, and so like I'd have to figure out. Obviously, Trutch has a meaning, but signs to Suet Street. That makes much more sense. That is a word that everyone can pronounce.
Yeah.
They can spell it. What they have here for it is not possible.
Yeah, they need to at least make it a sort of like a phonetic name. Like, yes, it's still a First Nations, but have it in phonetic English so we can at least kind of try to pronounce it. Yeah, so I guess Trutch was a early colonial politician, and this is kind of the removing the whole colonialism kind of thing. Now, speaking of First Nations, this is a totally side note. We're watching a new show called Reservation Dogs, and it is hilarious. I have some family members who are First Nations, and I told them about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, that show is great." It's like like four teenagers growing up in rural Oklahoma, and the stuff that they go through. They like stealing trucks and just trying to get ahead to get out. It's like it's hilarious. It's funny, but also true at the same time. So put that on your list of shows to watch.
I'll do it with all my time. I'll watch it with my kids here.
Sounds good. Any closing thoughts, Alex?
No, I think that was a jam-packed one there, Alex. I do know next week we have to record a little bit earlier because Alex got his for his sons for his graduation and everything, which is awesome. And we're gonna bring an episode of just talking about some more advanced mortgage strategies, dive into them, just to give people more information that way.
Yeah, we're thinking of talking about some products here that that are common, but could be used for different reasons, and how it could benefit you and how it could help you accelerate your mortgage pay down faster. Of course, we'll talk about the pros and the cons of each and how it worked for you.
Yep, exactly.
So, folks, thanks for tuning in again. Thanks for supporting us. We are approaching on 1 year. We're episode 42. We're about 2 months away from our 1 year anniversary. It's been a great ride all this time. Just meeting Alex from the beginning of our story, from meeting each other on TikTok to meeting up and be like,
maybe we'll have to do it. Maybe we'll have to do a TikTok live for our episode for a 1 year episode. Do a live recording of it.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Yeah, we're open to how we're gonna celebrate. But folks, if you like this podcast, please like, share, subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and share it to someone who you think that will benefit from this and help us grow our community. So on behalf of Alex Shanks, I'm Alex Pang. Thanks for tuning into episode 42 of the Canadian Mortgage Show. We'll see you next time.
Talk to you soon.
Now, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, make sure to follow us. Please give us a 5-star rating. You can even send us an email because we want to know what you guys want to hear about. That's what we're here for. Reach out anytime.